Today's lesson is Michelle Wu, laying the foundation for change. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Helen.
And today we're going to talk about a famous politician in the United States of Taiwanese descent. Her name is Michelle Wu. Maybe you've heard of her. And she is laying the foundation for change in the city of Boston, in the state of Massachusetts, in the United States of America. So, Helen, have you heard of Michelle Wu before?
Yes, I have. I began hearing about her last year when she became elected as mayor of Boston. But before that, I had not heard of her because I'm not from Boston, and living in Taiwan, I don't really hear a lot about local politics or state-level politics in the United States. But then I heard about her. She was born in 1985, so she's quite young. And she was born in Chicago, even though she is now working as the mayor of Boston, which is one of the most important cities and also one of the most historic cities in the United States. She was actually born in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay, so that's a little bit of her history, and we'll talk about more of her history in today's lesson. So let's get to it. Let's listen to the first part of our lesson, and then we'll come back to discuss it.
Michelle Wu, laying the foundation for change. Michelle Wu made history last year by becoming not only the first woman, but also the first person of color to be elected as mayor of Boston. At her swearing-in ceremony on November 16th, Wu promised to work hard to make Boston a city for everyone, invoking its history to emphasize the benefits of change. Boston was founded on a revolutionary promise that things don't have to be as they always have been, she said.
大家好，第一部分我们看到动词 invoke 表示引用、援引或是激发，像是 Kramer invoked the section of his contract pertaining to annual leave. Kramer 引用他合约中关于特休的部分。
So the title of today's lesson is Michelle Wu, laying the foundation for change. Now, broadly speaking, this means that Michelle Wu, now that she's the mayor of Boston, wants to create change for the city. But before she can do that, she needs to lay the foundation for change. So foundation is a word that refers to the base of a structure. For instance, the base of a building that can be used to support all of the other parts of that building or that thing. So you need to have a strong foundation if you want the rest of the object to be strong and stable. I could also say, for instance, if you want to be a professional singer, then you need to develop the foundations to be able to do that. So you might need to take voice lessons, do breathing exercises, learn how to pronounce certain words when you're saying those words. These are the foundations to becoming a good singer.
Exactly. So she's establishing the foundation for change. She's laying the foundation for change. And again, we're always talking about change in politics because people just think things are going so badly with the government and we need a change. We need something to change in the government so that we can have a better life. Now, here in the first part of the lesson, it says Michelle Wu made history last year by becoming not only the first woman, but also the first person of color to be elected as mayor of Boston. So her name is Michelle Wu. In English, in American English at least, we'll say Wu, although I believe in Mandarin you'll just say ooh. But we always pronounce the W in English, Michelle Wu. And she made history last year by becoming not only the first woman, but also the first person of color to be elected as mayor of Boston. She made history. If you make history, of course, you do something that hasn't been done before, and that achievement will affect the future greatly.
Yes, when you make history, you do something that people will remember for a long time. And what's the big deal about being elected mayor of a city? Well, because Boston has never had a woman mayor, a female mayor, and Boston has never had a mayor that was not white. And this is what person of color refers to. So we're not talking specifically about black people, but any person who is considered an ethnic minority, such as a person who is Asian, a person who is Hispanic, a person who does not have white skin. So this is the term that is often used these days, person of color, to refer to people who have ethnic origins that are different from the typical European, Northern European ethnic origin.
And so she's the first non-white person to be elected as mayor of Boston. At her swearing-in ceremony on November 16th, Wu promised to work hard to make Boston a city for everyone, invoking its history to emphasize the benefits of change. So remember, when somebody assumes office, when they take office, when they begin their first day of work as president or as mayor or whatever, you have a swearing-in ceremony. You have a judge, usually, who makes the person raise their right hand and put their hand on the Bible. If they're religious, they can do that. I guess they don't have to put it on the Bible if they don't want to. But then they repeat after the judge, I do solemnly swear to uphold the office of mayor of Boston, etc., etc.
Yes, and at the ceremony, Michelle Wu promised to work hard to make Boston a city for everyone. And that means she wants the city to become a city that can offer everyone equal opportunity, equal benefits, because perhaps right now, like in a lot of major cities, you have people who are very wealthy and who have a lot of benefits, and people who are poor who don't get a lot of benefits. And she wants to make Boston a city that's equal for everyone. And in her promise to do this, she invokes the history of Boston to emphasize the benefits of change. To invoke means to mention something, to mention an idea or a fact to support an argument that you are making or to support an action that you want to take. And here she invokes the history of Boston because Boston has a very long history. We have to remember that Boston was the place where a lot of the events of the American Revolution took place, the events that took place before the Revolution and afterwards. There was a time when America was a British colony, and Boston really represents that part of history and also in the effort of Americans to gain freedom and liberty from British rule.
The point is that from the American Revolution, they wanted change. They didn't like what was happening when they were a colony of Great Britain. So, of course, they decided to revolt. And, of course, lots of those events took place in Boston, Lexington and Concord, Bunker Hill, the Boston Tea Party, stuff like that. And, of course, she wants to make the city equal for everybody. And Boston was founded on a revolutionary promise that things don't have to be as they always have been, she said. Yes, if the way things have been in the past were bad, then we should work to change those things to make the place better.
That's right. And here, of course, she is talking about British rule. Americans back then did not want to be under British control anymore, so they took destiny in their own hands and revolted, because they didn't want to remain in that situation. And based on that experience, that part of history, people know that things don't have to be as they always have been.
Okay, let's move on now to the next part and find out more about the life and times of Michelle Wu.
Having served on the Boston City Council from 2014 to 2021, including a 2-year stint as council president, Wu is no stranger to politics. But she hadn't intended to pursue a career as a politician. Her Taiwanese immigrant parents had shielded her from politics, and when Wu moved to Boston to study at Harvard College, economics was her field of choice. She worked as a consultant in 2008 after she graduated.
第二部分我们看到动词 pursue 指追求、寻求或是贯彻。举例来说 After months of pursuing his goal, Donald finally achieved it. 追求目标几个月之后 Donald 终于达成了。另外补充这个字的相关片语 in the pursuit of pursuit P-U-R-S-U-I-T in the pursuit of 而其中的 the 可以省略 意思是追求。例如Mark moved to Singapore in pursuit of a better paying job and more opportunities. Mark 搬到新加坡，以追求待遇更好的工作和更多机会。或是 Many people treat others badly in the pursuit of money. 许多人为了追求金钱，恶劣地对待别人。接着我们看到单字 shield， 这个字是动词，指保护、庇护或是挡住。像是Many young American children are shielded by their parents from television violence. 许多美国幼童受父母保护，远离电视暴力。或是 You could bring an umbrella to shield yourself from the midday sun. 日正当中，你可以带把伞遮太阳。另外，这个字也可作为名词用，表示防护物或是盾牌。我们可以说Darnell used his quick wit as a shield against his coworkers' constant mockery.Darnell 用他的机智避开同事的不停嘲弄。或者 Ancient Greek soldiers used huge round shields. 古希腊士兵使用巨大的圆盾。
And welcome back. So we're going to look at what Michelle Wu was doing before she became elected mayor of Boston. Having served on the Boston City Council from 2014 to 2021, including a 2-year stint as council president, Wu is no stranger to politics. So before she became mayor, she had already had a lot of experience in politics. So that's what no stranger to means. When you say somebody is no stranger to something, it means that person has a lot of experience in that thing. I could also say, as an example, Tom is no stranger to hard work, which means that he is very experienced or is very much used to working hard.
She's very familiar with politics. She has some experience in politics. I should say a lot of experience because she served on the Boston City Council for, 7 years there? From 2014 to 2021. And then she was also the council president. Now, a council is just when representatives get together in a government body. Here in Taiwan, of course, the various cities have city councils. So if you're a person on that council, you're a council person. And, of course, if you want to run for that office, you have to be elected as well. So if you're on the city council, you're a member of the city council. And I guess later on, she became the leader, the council president. So that's a good sign of her political savvy.
Right. And here the word council is non-count. So you can't say councils, but you can say 2 council members or 3 council members. And later she had a 2-year stint as council president. And here the word stint refers to a period of time spent doing something. And it's usually used to refer to something that you don't consider to be a major event in your life. So you can talk about an actor's rise to fame. You could say something like, before Rob Lowe became a famous actor, he did a 2-year stint or a 6-month stint as a waiter in a Hollywood restaurant. That's an example of the use of the word stint.
So again, she's no stranger to politics. She has a lot of experience in politics, but she hadn't intended to pursue a career as a politician. That was not her intention. That's not what she wanted to do. It just kind of happened to her. She did not want to pursue that career. Here we've got the word pursue, and that means to chase after something. In this particular case, it means that you go after this career. You study for it. You get jobs related to this career. You pursue a career in, say, medicine or in law.
Right. You can pursue a degree, or you can also pursue a person that you want to marry. So these are a few ways of using the verb to pursue. Now, her Taiwanese immigrant parents had shielded her from politics. And when Wu moved to Boston to study at Harvard College, economics was her field of choice. So for some reason, her parents, who immigrated from Taiwan, didn't want her to think a lot about politics. maybe they thought that it was unimportant or they didn't want her to go into politics as a field of work, so they shielded her from it. To shield means to protect someone from being influenced by something in this context, but you can also shield someone from being hurt, from being hit by an object. So this is the verb to shield. Shield is also a noun. It's usually a flat object. It could be made of plastic these days. In the past, it was made of metal that soldiers or police officers use to protect themselves from weapons that may be thrown at them.
So her parents kind of protected her from politics. They did not encourage her to pursue a career in politics. They probably did not discuss presidential elections at home and things like that. They thought that was something that was not important, not a proper career choice. So she moved to Boston to study at Harvard, and economics was her field of choice. Economics, you can pronounce it either way. That's just the study of how money works in a system.
Right. So she studied economics. That was her field of choice. And then she worked as a consultant in 2008 after she graduated. So she worked as a consultant. A consultant is an expert or a professional person whose job is to give advice to somebody on a particular subject. So for instance, when tax season comes around, that's usually May in Taiwan, April in the United States. That's the time when you have to pay your taxes. You might want to talk to a tax consultant. A tax consultant is somebody who knows a lot about taxes. So if you talk to a tax consultant or if you consult a tax consultant, you might be able to save some money in your taxes.
Hopefully you can, and that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's wrap things up and listen now to the third part.
Wu's career trajectory changed dramatically when she received a call from her sister urging her to come back to Chicago. Her mother had suffered a mental health crisis, and Wu felt compelled to return home to act as the family's caregiver. There, she opened a tea shop before closing its doors less than a year later.
"最后第三部分，我们看到单字 compel， 这个字是动词，指被迫或是逼迫，像是 Police compelled the suspects to give themselves up。警方逼迫嫌犯投降。再举一个例子 ，The government compelled citizens to register for the military draft。政府强迫国民登记军队征召。另外，在课文中，我们用 feel compelled to 加动词，表示觉得必须做点点点。举例来说 ，Diana felt compelled to help the homeless family find a place to live。Diana 觉得有必要协助无家可归的家庭找到安身之处。或是 Rose felt compelled to take up dancing after learning that her mother used to be a dancer. 知道母亲以前是舞者后 ，Rose 感觉自己是被迫学跳舞的。
So Michelle Wu, we saw in the last part, she studied at Harvard College and then she became a consultant. Now, Wu's career trajectory changed dramatically when she received a call from her sister urging her to come back to Chicago. So she's in Boston and she receives a call from her sister urging her to return. To urge means to advise someone strongly to do something. I could say to someone, I urge you to see a doctor immediately about your arm. It's all swollen and it's blue. It might be dangerous not to see a doctor, so I urge you to go to the hospital immediately. So her sister urges her to go back to Chicago, and that's when her career trajectory changed dramatically. Trajectory refers to the way in which a process or an event develops over a period of time. So when you talk about a career trajectory, you're talking about how somebody's career changed from one path to another over a period of time.
Exactly. So that the trajectory of her career changed when she got the phone call from her sister, who was urging her, begging her to come back to Chicago. Her mother had suffered a mental health crisis, and Wu felt compelled to return home to act as the family's caregiver. If you're compelled to do something, that means you think that is what you should do. That is your obligation. So she felt obligated to return home because she was going to be the caregiver to her mother. And there she opened a tea shop before closing its doors less than a year later. Oh no, I wish it were still open. The next time I go to Chicago, I could go there and have some tea, especially good oolong tea from Taiwan, but the tea shop is closed. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。吴米去年当选波士顿市长，那在宣誓就职典礼上，他就承诺要努力让波士顿成为一个适合所有人的城市，并且援引了他的历史来强调改变的好处。文中用到 invoke 来表达援引引用，那我们来学它的字首字根。好，当你看到 VOC、VOK 或者是 VOW 这一类字根呢，它就带有 call、speak、sound、voice 等等的意思，去表达说话啊、叫喊或是声音等等。像 vocal 声音的， vowel 母音，这些字汇都带有声音的意味嘛。好，那我们看到在 invoke 这个字当中，它的字首 in 表示 upon， 字根 voke 表示 call， 所以我们从字源来看，它就有 call upon 的意思，带有恳求、请求得到帮忙、请求得到支援、协助等等的语义。那我们也许就可以透过请求支援去联想到 invoke 它有引用、援引或是借助的意思。好，那顺便补充几个有相同字根的单字。第一个是 provoke， 它的字首 pro 表示在点点点之前，那字根 voke 表示叫喊。当有人站在前方在叫喊，很像在呛下要挑衅的感觉，你就可以去联想到 provoke 它有挑衅、煽动、激怒、激起的意思。第二个补充的是 revoke， 它的字首 re 表示往回，那么 voke 表示说话。虽然我们说过的话没有办法收回，但是同学们可以试着想，你要让说出的话往回收，要让它失效，那就表示你要去撤销掉它，要取消掉它，所以 revoke 就有撤回、撤销或是取消的意思。好，那么第三个补充的是 convoke 这个字， con 这个字首表示一起，然后再加上 voke 是叫喊、召唤，叫大家一起过来，我们就可以联想到 convoke 有召集的意思咯。好，那么课文第三部分提到说，吴米的母亲遭逢心理健康危机，她觉得她得回家成为家中的照护者。文中是用到动词 compel， 表示被迫、逼迫。Feel compelled to do something 就是觉得必须做某事，觉得不得不做某事。好，那我们也来学习 compel 的字首字根。看到 pel 这个字根，它就有驱动或者是推挤、鞭策的意思。在 compel 这个字当中，它的字首 com 表示完全一起，那么 pel 表示推挤。一起推挤好像会把你压迫到喘不过气来的感觉，我们用这样的画面去联想到 compel 有迫使、强迫、使不得不的意思咯。好，那我们也顺便补充几个有相同字根的单字。第一个是 propel， 好，这个字呢我们在第二天的课文也会看到，那它的字首 pro 表示 forward 向前， pel 表示驱使，合在一起就有那种推动啊、推进或是驱策、驱动的意思。第二个补充的是 expel， 它的字首 ex 表示由内向外， pel 表示推挤。好，那由内向外推挤应该很容易联想到 expel 它有驱逐啊、赶走、排出的意思。第三个补充 dispel， 它的字首 dis 是分离， pel 表示驱使，那么合在一起就是驱散、消除的意思了。好，那以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Foundation. Kelly's work as a graduate student laid the foundation for her career. Counsel. The city council announced plans to build another park downtown. Pursue. Are you going to pursue further study after you graduate? Shield. Siddhartha's father tried to shield him from the cruel realities of life. Economics. Harold studied economics before getting a job in finance. Consultant. After Gary left the company, he started working as a consultant. Urge. Andrew's mother urged him to study medicine. Compel. I felt compelled to stay late at the library to finish the assignment.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.